I wanted to talk a little bit this morning about power. There is so much going on in our world today, so many wars, so many conflicts, so many periods of starvation where people are under the power of somebody else. That power is usually brought about by strength, by force, by the amount of guns that people have. But what I want to talk today is about the power of the Word. For we just heard the words of Jesus, a man who was about to be turned over to the authorities, to be sentenced to death through the manipulations of those in power, to be scourged and crucified in the most horrific manner. Jesus, acknowledging that his time had come, when he tells his disciples that he will not be with them much longer. Jesus knew all of this was inevitable, that his life was to be sacrificed for us. You would have thought that under such circumstances it would leave a person full of condemnation of those around him. But instead, Jesus talked about love, his love for us, and the need for all of us to love each other. In fact, that this love is the true way that everybody else will know that we are his disciples. Now, I know that we have all heard these words, and we all know there is power within these words. But the power is only there when we embrace them by living them. For example, we look back at our first reading today from the Acts of the Apostles, where we hear of Paul and Barnabas wandering the roads on their way to Antioch. They are preaching and teaching the words of Christ to all that would stop and listen. And through the power of those words, they would gather together people to form a church and then appoint an elder, and before moving on, they would commend these people to the Lord through fasting and prayer. It is easy to listen to these words so many years later within the comfort of our big churches, full of light, beautiful music, microphones so all can hear, amazing windows and candles and flowers, leading us into what is a very special place. But Paul and Barnabas had none of these things to help them. Now, our late beloved Pope Francis declared 2025 a Jubilee year with the theme of Pilgrims of Hope. So I ask you to imagine these men travelling on dirt roads, sandals on bare feet, simple clothing for protection from the extremes of weather, sitting around campfires at night, sharing what little food and water they carried, and arriving in towns along the way, armed only with the words given to them from the Lord. Simple men armed with the power of the words and yet accomplishing so much. Can you imagine them gathering a people around them and telling them that it is through the love of the Lord for them and the love for each other that will set them apart as true believers in God? That this path that they chose to follow is the path to eternal life. When I had a chance to stop and think about the words from our readings today, two particular themes came to mind, and they would be pilgrimage and church, or what we today would call a parish. Firstly, 2,000 years ago, Paul and Barnabas and many others like them personified what Pope Francis was asking us to do as pilgrims of hope. We, of course, today don't travel all that much over long distances, especially on foot. But it does not mean we should not take opportunities when presented to us to practice this concept of pilgrimage as a parish. Which brings us to the next theme, the second theme, church. What is a church? A gathering of people in one central location and the appointing of an elder to oversee. The term, of course, we use today is a parish. Our Catholic Catechism tells us that a parish is a community of the Christian faithful, established on a stable basis within a particular church. The pastoral care of the parish is entrusted today to a pastor, to a priest, as its own shepherd, and under the authority of the diocesan bishop. Now that does sound a lot like us, doesn't it? For we are the Cathedral parish within the Archdiocese of Hobart. This is a fact, but one could ask then, what is the role of our parish? So if we read a little further in the Catechism, it tells us that the parish initiates the Christian people into an ordinary expression of the liturgical life. It gathers them together in this celebration. It teaches Christ's saving doctrine. It practices the charity of the Lord in good works and the love we have for each other. Is this what we all see when we look at our parish? Are we involved in a liturgical life, or are we just edging around the sides of it? When we are presented with God's words, do we feel the power of those words and respond? Do we become involved in our parish in whatever way we can so that others from the outside see a community of the Christian faithful? When men like Paul and Barnabas heard these words, was it enough for them to just listen, or did they not instead take those words to heart, get involved and carried out marvellous deeds that we are all still listening to today? So what about us today? Do we listen to the word and then just go about our life? Or do we listen to the word and get involved within our parish? The beautiful building that we gather in to hear the word and share in the Eucharist are just that. They're buildings. For it is only when those buildings are occupied by the community of the Christian faithful that it does truly become a church. For we, the people, are the church. We are the people of God who live by the words and promises of Christ when he said, I give you a new commandment, love one another just as I have loved you. Today's gospel, the story of Paul and Barnabas, are a call to all of us to be more involved, telling us through their words to gather, to listen and to be involved. How do we do this? Well, there are many, many ways. Maybe we could take some time to stand in the foyer of our beautiful building with a smile and a friendly hello as we welcome all into our church. Maybe we could drop flowers off to be put into our cathedral to make it a pleasant and a lovely surrounding for people to come into and to enhance the beauty of that church for everyone to see. Now, these are simple but effective ways for others to recognise our commitment to our community of the Christian faithful. Maybe you would actually like to do more. Maybe become a reader at your Mass. Process the gifts up to the altar during Mass. Maybe you'd like to be an altar server or even a sacristan. All these are opportunities for each of us to show our love and commitment to our community as we practice the love for each other as Jesus taught us. There are so many facets to our parish that one can be involved in. Just for instance, you could take the time to attend our series of talks we're starting here in the Cathedral Parish called Chatter That Matters, or become part of a liturgy or an RCIA group that we're starting up in our parish. or become involved in our very own parish pilgrimage to Ross in July. Details for all these happenings are always in your bulletin for you to read. And I know all this sounds like advertising, and in a way, I guess it is. But it is advertising the fact that being involved in your parish is being part of a community. Imagine those groups of people that Paul and Barnabas gathered together in towns that they passed through. If they did not get involved and commit to their church, then as soon as Paul and Barnabas moved on, the community would have fallen apart. Even Jesus took 3 years of travelling, teaching and preaching to his disciples to gather them into a strong enough community to carry on the work of his church when he was no longer with them. And Jesus actually gave us an example when he gave us the Eucharist, because he first uttered the words by telling his disciples that this bread was his body, and then he created an action of breaking the bread and sharing it. Then he spoke the words of the wine being his blood, and then created an action by sharing the chalice amongst his disciples. Jesus uses the power of the word and then asks us to complete the actions. There is no power in words if they do not instill an action. The word of the Lord is read to us at all our gatherings to instill in us the need to listen and then to act upon those words, to become involved and to commit, no matter how small or large that commitment may be, to be part of the community of the Christian faithful, which is what our parishes are meant to be. So I remember those powerful words in our psalm today, which went, "All your creatures shall thank you, O Lord, and your friends shall repeat their blessing. They shall speak of the glory of your reign and declare your might, O God, to make known to men your mighty deeds and the glorious splendour of your reign." And when I hear these words and think about why I am here, I know that when Jesus calls on me to be involved, to stand up and to be seen, then my answer will always be, "Yes, Lord, here I am."